Hello and welcome to another episode of D-Town TV. I'm Larry Becker You'll notice that I'm on the set by myself today, and the reason for that is because of the Google Plus for Photographers conference. All the important people went there, and so I'm here hanging out on the D-Town set. We have a great show for you today, and it's all because of the folks at Kelby Media Group, which put together a whole bunch of different things, like what you're looking at right now. Now, anytime we have a webcast, when we capture that webcast, we go live with the webcast. So we do things like Nap News, we do Kelby training and interviews and things like that. Photoshop User TV, right now you're watching D-Town TV, and it's all at kelbytv.com, kelbytv.com/on-air, all lowercase. kelbytv.com/on-air. So you can watch it as it happens. And normally with D-Town, we're not doing it today, but normally with D-Town, we would do 2 episodes in a row, and then when you go to the D-Town site, you would see just one archived and then the next one post the next week. But if you're really into this stuff, like my mom, you want to watch both of them live, you can do that. And we do that about every other Thursday. But we're just doing one show today, so we are on our way. And I also want to let you know about one other thing, and that is Photoshop World. It's coming up sooner than you can imagine. It's going to be in Las Vegas this time, so go to photoshopworld.com. All right, now I have a great photographer who has a tip for you. His name is me. And so I want to tell you a little bit about lens compression and focal length on a zoom lens. And so I went out with my friend Meredith. She's actually one of our producers here. And I asked Meredith if she would just stand still and let me zoom and take her picture, and then step back and zoom in and step back and zoom in. And so this tip is kind of in multiple pieces. The first one is, generally, people don't look their best when you're shooting them with a wide angle. Now, a lot of photographers know that already, but a lot of people, a lot of you guys tell me that you're just getting started. And one of the things that I tell people a lot of times, if you want to take a better picture of somebody, step back and zoom in. Now, obviously, there are limitations to any of these techniques, but step back and zoom in gets rid of some of that barrel distortion on the wide angle end of a zoom lens. Let's have a look at what I've got on the computer here. And this is a picture of Meredith that we shot, had her stand by some trees at a park, very senior high portrait kind of thing. And so what you can see that's going on here is I shot her with an 18mm lens here, and you can see the background is pretty much in focus, as is she. But the other thing is, things that are around the outside edge are going to be distorted and large, so it makes her arm look bigger than it really is if you look at this image this way. So let's go ahead and move on. Now, I also shot the exact same thing. Now, pay attention to her headroom in the shot, and then where it cuts off right around her rib cage. And then we'll go to the next shot. Now, this one's 35mm instead of, the first one was 18. This one's 35mm. And her arm is starting to get closer to normal looking, but since it's pointing at the camera and I'm still at 35mm, it's not as flattering as it could be. The background, though, notice that it's kind of taking up more of the background, or the background, we're zooming in a little bit on the background. So each of these, I zoomed the lens a little bit different, and then I stepped back to get her in the same proportion. Now we're at 70mm, so I step back a little bit further. She's still taking up about the same portion of the lens area, but her arm now, same exact position, it looks much more normal. It's getting closer to looking better because of the zoom amount. And then when I stepped way back and I zoomed into 200, look what happens here. It gives you that fuzzy background. We're really blurring the background details. The focus is just on your subject, and so it gives you a very different look. Now, again, side by side, she's still taking up pretty much the same proportion of the image, but we're so close to her right now that even the tree on the right is almost off the frame. So here we go back to the very first one, and I'm going to just toggle back and forth. You see, now you can see especially how distorted her arm appears to be, or how much larger it appears to be, because of that 18mm wide angle zoom. And then back to the 200, you see how much more flattering it is. It focuses much better on your subject, throws the background out of focus. And so ultimately what you end up with is one lens, multiple zoom lengths, and multiple effects, even though your subject is generally staying the same size and the same proportion, the same relation in the frame. So just be aware of those kinds of things, and it will help you take better pictures, especially when you're planning portraits and things like that. Now, speaking of somebody that really can shoot well, Lindsay Adler has a tip for us that we would like to go to right now. So Lindsay, take it away.
I'm Lindsay Adler, and today I'm going to talk about flattering angles for photographing your models, particularly when I'm doing full length. What a lot of people do, it really isn't flattering, is they shoot from standing, just at a normal angle. And usually that's emphasizing kind of the shoulders, the midsection. It's just not a good way to slenderize your subject, particularly if you have somebody that's short. They're probably self-conscious about that, especially if it's, photographing a model or a celebrity or just doing a portrait that's full length. You want to really emphasize their height. You want to try to make them look taller. If you make them look taller, they look more slender. It's just more flattering to them. So a lot of people make the mistake of shooting a full-length shot from just standing. So I'm going to show you a couple different angles that I would shoot at that would make the photograph a better image. So first of all, I'm going to stand here, and I'm going to shoot full length, just standing. And what it does is, I'm short. I'm not even tall, and it already looks like I'm kind of shooting down on her. It makes her legs look shorter, it makes her shoulders look broader. It's just not flattering. So what a lot of people do, and one of the things you're supposed to do, is get down. If you get down shorter, if you sit on the ground, get on your knees, and you shoot, it'll make the person look more elongated. However, a lot of people make this mistake. They'll stay the same distance and just get shorter. So they'll get down low, they'll shoot up high, but then they're going to shoot wider angle because they're close and they want the person to look tall. So if you're close, I'm going to shoot, let's do a shot maybe at like 28. When I'm doing that, I'm basically shooting up her nose because I'm right here. I'm shooting straight up. I kind of have the nostril shot. Yes, her legs look longer, but her feet look very large and her head looks small. Put your hand out to me. Whatever is closest to the camera is going to look largest. So in this instance, she put her hand out and it looks much larger than her head. So it's something that you want to keep in mind. You want to keep in mind that, okay, if I'm going to try to make her look taller and I get down shorter, being close isn't the way to go. What you want to do if you want to make someone look taller is you want to get down low and back up. But when you back up, you can use a longer or telephoto lens. So here I'm shooting 24, 28. If I back up and get down low, I can shoot at maybe 70 millimeters or 85 or 105 or whatever works for your space. Of course, if you have a small space, you can't back up really far because you don't have a lot of space, but work with what you have. So I'm going to back up, get down low, and shoot at 70. And it's much more flattering. Again, it's kind of even. I'm not really emphasizing any part of her body, but she looks tall, she looks slender, and it's very, very flattering. So if you compare the shots, you have that first one where I'm standing up close and I'm shooting. Again, it's kind of emphasizing making her shoulders look wide. It makes her look shorter. If I get down low and shoot a wide angle, it emphasizes her feet. It's kind of a shot up the nose. But when I back up and I shoot a telephoto lens from a low angle, it's really slenderizing, makes her legs look really long. It's great for any fashion model or really anyone you want to look taller. For example, if you look through the pages of Vogue and you look at an editorial, if it's a full-length shot, I guarantee you that 75, 80, 90% of the time, the shot was taken from a very low angle, either on the knees or sitting on the ground. There's specific photographers that a lot of times will actually set their cameras directly on the ground and shoot up because it makes the women look impossibly tall. But fashion photography is really about fantasy, so it's just another way to make them look beautiful, slender, and powerful.
That's really cool stuff. Ironically, it's a little bit of what I talked about already, the step back and zoom in. But Lindsay illustrates it really well. She's a great trainer, and in fact, her stuff is over at KelbyTraining.com, our sponsor. Imagine that. Great coincidence. But Lindsay is really quite good, and as you can see in just that 3-minute or so clip, there was so much teaching going on already. So definitely swing by. Even if you're thinking about it, you can take some sample classes. There are great trainers over at kelbytraining.com. Stop by there and check out Lindsay and some of the other great trainers we have. We're going to toss to a break real quick, but right after that, we've got some great stuff coming up. An interview with my buddy Matt and Jack Reznicki. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Have you been looking to take your photography to the next level? Learn from some of the world's top pro photographers and instructors? At kelbytraining.com, that experience is only a few clicks away.
Hey Jason, I'm glad you joined me today on Kelby Training. We're going to be getting some great motocross action. Guys are going to be flying over my head. Jason, we're going to be using high-speed sync and speed lights to get some great action.
Whether on location or in studio, our instructors teach you some of the most sought-after techniques, giving you a first-hand look at their work step by step. It's unlimited one-on-one training, giving you 24-hour-a-day access to hundreds of exclusive classes.
Jason, we had a great class today. I hope you learned a lot with our speed lights and high-speed sync action. Remember, kelbytraining.com is a one-stop shopping for great learning, great photography classes. We'll see you next time.
Experience a class on kelbytraining.com. Subscribe today. Visit kelbytraining.com for more information.
See, I told you there was great training at kelbytraining.com. That stuff is absolutely amazing. And when the guys were doing all this motorcycle shooting, I remember around here there was a lot of buzz, and Scott was bringing in these really cool images and just amazing stuff. And being able to access that kind of thing is incredible. It's an amazing benefit to kelbytraining.com. All right, we have a really cool interview with a guy, Jack Reznicki, who is a wonderful photographer. He actually has classes over on Kelby Training also about both photography and the legal side of things, the copyright stuff. He's written a book with an attorney. And Jack's stuff is really worthwhile when it comes to keeping track of your images, model releases, and all kinds of stuff. And Matt had a conversation with him about copyright. This might help some of you out. It certainly helps me.
Hi everybody, my name is Matt Kloskowski and I am here in the studio with Jack Reznicki, commercial photographer, lecturer, trainer, writer, just a man about town.
Man about town, bon vivant, like Felix Unger used to say.
So Jack's here, and one of Jack's expertise is talking about copyright and many things around copyright.
Yep.
I thought one of the really cool things that we could talk to and just grill Jack on today was, especially since this is mainly going to go out for NAP and Photoshop users, would be, and I hear this a lot, what do you do? People have heard that rule where if I have a photo of, I'll just take an example of, let's say the Empire State Building, okay? I have a photo of the Empire State Building. The Empire State Building.
That's not a great example.
Okay.
Let's just say a picture of somebody on the street.
A picture of a saxophone player on the street.
There you go.
There you go. And I take that picture. I post it on my blog, my internet, my website, whatever. Somebody else takes that picture, opens it up inside Photoshop, and then uses some type of an artistic painterly filter on it.
Which version of Photoshop are we talking?
CS 5.1.
All right.
Uses some type of artistic painterly filter on it.
Right. And creates a new work. And
creates a new image that they go and maybe sell to use on a cover of a brochure or whatever it may happen to be. What's the law around that? Because you hear this, the image has to be changed 40% or 30% or 20%. What's the deal?
Wrong-o.
Wrong-o, no percent.
There's no percent, and it is a myth. It's something that's been in art schools for years and years, and they used to say 30%. If you change it 30%, it's a new work.
What is 30%?
I know. They have a ruler, and they go, oh, you know? Sorry, 29%, you're out. No, what it is, there is a test, and it's called a common man test.
Okay.
And common man is somebody, it could be within the group, it could be a common man as another photographer or just somebody on the street. But it's in court if an average person, a common man or woman, can take your original saxophone player and look at the other image and say, they can see where one was derived from the other, then you lose. And it's considered a derivative. And one of the rights you have under copyright is the rights of derivatives. People can't take that element and say, if you can see that, this is Matt's saxophone player, then that's all there needs to be. There is no percentage. That's a myth that has existed for a long time.
Because you could almost say that the saxophone player was maybe 10% of the photo. If I cut him out and I put him onto the other background, well, then I have a 90% new photo, right? But it doesn't
work.
That.
Somebody, I saw one recently where somebody took this gorgeous painting as a background and put in a little person in it, and it doesn't matter. The percentage didn't matter. The fact is that it infringed on that original work. And the reason we didn't do the Empire State Building is the Empire State Building has intellectual property rights to that. Where if you took,
bad example.
If you took a skyline of New York, an example I use all the time, you could have the Empire State Building in it, no problem. And you can sell skylines in New York and make lots and lots and lots of money and keep it all. But if you did something and said you were the empire of photographers, and it was that same skyline, well, now you're trading on their mark. That's what a trademark is. You're trading on their mark, and they can sue you. That's their property, and you're benefiting from their property. But if it's part of the whole, if it's the way it's supposed to be used, there's no problem. It's like utilitarian objects.
Yeah.
People always ask, well, I have this picture in the background and whatever. There was a case in arbitration I recently had where one photographer was upset because another photographer who had an image in this magazine showed the cover of the magazine on his website. And he said, that violates my copyright because it was my image on the cover. No, you can show the magazine in whole and not have a problem. Like, you ever see a news story and it's some sensational image or something, but that newspaper doesn't have the rights to the image. And what they'll do is they'll show the whole competitor magazine or a newspaper, and that's allowed because you're showing it as the object as it's intended to be. You're not cropping into it.
It's almost a news source where you're saying this is the image where it originally came from.
That's a utilitarian object that it's supposed to be.
Okay.
But if you crop into it, you broke the law.
And I was going to say, it's funny. We had Scott talks about this example here. We had a designer, and like you said, this has been taught in schools. I mean, I think a lot of designers and even photographers fall into thinking this, but they designed a cover where they took an image, and I think it was like almost like a Superman guy ripping his shirt off with the logo under something. He was going like this.
Right.
And they took that image and they illustrated it.
Right.
So it was a photo, but they took it and they illustrated it, but it was still clearly done from the photo. They didn't know. This almost got published and everything like that. They didn't know. They thought because they were making an illustration from the photo that they were okay, but they're not.
No, just changing the media doesn't make it something different. It has to be really extreme. And there was a case with our good friend Jay Maisel, where somebody took one of his pictures.
I think it was a saxophone player, wasn't it?
No, it was. Oh dear, and
blues.
You're going to do that
It was
to
something.
me.
Yeah, it was something with
kind of blues.
something with music.
Oh, a very famous trumpet player.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, now
the name's escaping us, but yeah, it was a very similar situation.
Miles Davis, and it's the biggest selling jazz album of all time, Kind of Blue, and that was Jay's picture of him on the cover. And somebody took it and did a pixelated art, but and they were saying, oh, but it's different. We transformed it, and they didn't. If you held one and looked at the other, it fails that common man test.
And they lost.
No, they settled. As most copyright cases are. Copyright is a very expensive proposition for both sides if you register your image. The thing is, the image has to be registered with the Copyright Office. You can't go to court even. You can't file suit without that registration. Yeah. Jay's was registered. They contacted, said it was infringed. There was a lot of noise and dust up and this and that, but the truth is Jay would have easily won in court. I think he could have collected more money.
Yeah.
But it was that simple common man test. It was definitely a clear derivative.
Yeah. One last thing is you had, but when we were talking about this topic, you had brought up photographing something on white seamless.
Right.
I think you used Thomas the Tank Engine as an example. So I
Right.
think that kind of falls into the same category.
Definitely. We talk about this in a book I wrote with intellectual property lawyer Ed Greenberg, and I think we talk about it in our Kelby training lessons that we have. But there's something known as protectable elements, where you can't, just because you photographed it, you have to have some creative input into it. And in this case, the Thomas the Tank case, was somebody who photographed Thomas the Tank for the toy company on basically white seamless, just a straight shot, you know, with lights. And he claimed that they violated his copyright when they extended the usage. And the court said, we're sorry, but that's not a copyrightable image. Now, if he shot it with like an extreme wide angle, at a low camera angle, and put in some
lighting,
lights
yeah.
and a creative background or something, then you would say that has protectable elements in it. But just if you're doing copy work, and it's just a straightforward object like that, then it can't be protected by copyright. But it's a rare thing, and I don't want to scare people into that. I mean, as a commercial photographer, I register everything. I don't even edit it. We do all the raw files get processed into small JPEGs, and we process even the mistakes. I want everything registered because I pay for registration by the application. It's $35 per application. And I just did 6,000 images. And it means if I take one of my raw images and then do all the things I learned at Photoshop World on how to change the colors and the background and do this and that and make it look completely different, I'm still covered by my original copyright because it's a derivative of my original.
Jack, as always, a huge wealth of knowledge. The book that you mentioned, where can people pick that up? The name, any stores, I assume anywhere.
Yeah, Barnes & Noble, they can get it at Amazon. They can also get it at our blog, which is the same name as our column in Photoshop User Magazine, thecopyrightzone.com. We will do a signed copy and mail it off to people.
Cool.
But if you want to save some bucks, go to Amazon.
Cool. Jack, thank you so much for coming by. We appreciate
My pleasure.
It. Take care.
See, I told you, he's, again, a great trainer, Jack, and when he teams up with Ed Greenberg, the attorney, incredible stuff, wealth of knowledge. So thank you, Matt and Jack, for the quick interview. We appreciate it. Great stuff. We've got a quick commercial, and we will be right back and give away some way cool stuff.
I really believe that your photography is a reflection of who you are. In my posing class, you're going to learn a lot of things. How to pose a bride and bring out the best in her shape and her curves. How to photograph a groom, because many of us who may focus on the bride will ignore the groom. Getting your clients to mirror you. Mirroring, I find, is the best way of getting people to pose. I'm Jerry Gionis. Check out my class on the fine art of posing at kelbytraining.com.
Hey guys, welcome back. You know, this is one of my favorite parts of the show. And in fact, this is my favorite show ever of D-Town. I don't know why, but this particular episode I like more than anyone else. We've got a couple cool things to wrap up the show with. First of all, I've got a photographer's website. And in fact, I'm going to take you over to his Nap member portfolio. The guy's name is Marco, and I think it's Reeb, or R-I-B-B-E. He's got some really great images. Most of them are composites. I don't think this one is a composite, but I just really like his style. Very, very beautiful work. And there's one here. This is obviously a composite, but I really, really like this image here. Check that out. So it's just got this really cool flavor. He's got a website as well, and I think it's just marcoribe.com, but I'm not sure. I don't remember, but we'll have a link in the show notes so that you can get around and see some of his images. He does these really cool composites and does some really neat special effects, some futuristic kind of things. There's a Tron kind of thing going on. So quite a few different things. And it's not all models that look like action figures. It's a whole lot of different things, but he's a very gifted photographer, so I would encourage you to check out some of his work over at the Nap member website or on his website. Now, we've got some great prizes to give away. One of them we've given this away before, the Perfect Suite, the version 6 of ON1 software. We're going to throw in a flexible leg tripod. And you know what? I saw these and I went, that's kind of silly. But I use mine all the time. It holds your iPhone or iPod Touch with a camera. So we're going to give away those 2 items to one person. And then this awesome Kata bag. Now you guys know I like Kata bags. And I was just tinkering with this right before we came back. And I want to show you, just because it just looks like a backpack. It just looks like a simple backpack. But there's a whole lot to this bag. So you can see there's a nice access to a large compartment in the top. But on the side, there are these little clips that keep this side panel kind of in place, but it's also a full zip around. And check this out. You get full access into your gear panels in here, the pouches and pocket areas in here. And let me zip this back up because there's one more way you can get to it. And that is here at the front. So look at this. So you get full access that way too. So whichever way works best for you, it's a really cool bag. And I love that the Kata stuff is bright yellow-orange inside, so you don't lose anything. Like if it were black inside, it's a little harder to get to. So we're going to give this away to one person and these 2 items away to somebody else. And the way it works is the way that it always works. You need to leave us a comment at the show, underneath the show posting on D-Town TV. So go to kelbytv.com/DTownTV. And then underneath there, you have to leave your comment there. Now your comment can be anything. It can be, I love this show because only Larry was on there and nobody else hosted the show and it was my favorite show of all time because of that. That might be your comment. But whatever your comment is, or I miss RC or I miss Matt, whatever your comment is, you are in the running for this. Now, we know that this streams out through other places. You might be watching it on Google Plus or someplace else, YouTube or something like that. But wherever you watch it, you gotta go over to kelbytv.com/DTownTV, find this show, and then for the show notes underneath, make sure that you put in a comment, just any comment at all, and that gets you in the running. We pick a couple people at random. One person will win this, the other person wins this. That's it for D-Town this week. Next week, we're going to have the full complement of crazy people that are going to be back from the Google Plus for Photographers Conference, and I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit about that as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching D-Town TV. Swing by my website when you get a little bit of time, Larry'sCheapShots.com. That's it for this week. We'll see you again next time. Have a good day.